Alright, so there's been a bit of interest in this scratcher thing I've made. If you haven't seen it yet, here's a little demo. So yeah, it's a scratcher thing. So it's based on my memories of the FL Scratcher from FL Studio. But there are a few things about that I always wished it had, and with the joys of Max for Live, I can get it going here. So I just thought I'd kind of show how I'm using it at the moment, because that may well impact how much people actually want to use this thing. So the way it works, I'm going to take this routine and I'm going to show how I actually copied it. And basically what I was doing was I was doing it bar by bar, essentially. So if I were to go delete this routine, so let me make sure I save it with the new name in case I lose it, because I like it. Back to tutorial. So let's assume I'm starting from scratch. So that save. So what I have is I've got a push over here. I'm only really using it just to as a trigger for the fader on off. Really, it's all coming from just any sort of MIDI input, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's delete this. The bar that I like best is bar 6 here, so I'm just going to kill that, and I'm going to set my loop points to bar 6. So the trick to this is, if I was super talented and stuff and practice a lot, I would, be able to do this one-to-one with the actual beat, but I'm not. So if I just loop this bar with the actual track, so I'll turn that one off, turn the loop off, and turn just the actual track on. Oh, make sure it's looping. So ideally, I would come over here, and so you can see that with the plugin itself, I've got 2 modes, scratch and automation. So if I want to scratch, I'll put it down into mode 1, and you can see this starts to play. So the way this works is I've got a pitch control here, so I can put it back to say 1, or because I am too lazy, I've just got a reset button to set the speed back to 1, and I've got a start stop. I've got this smoothing thing, which is essentially the kind of it both controls how smooth the samples play back, as well as how much I've got a bit of sort of like inertia on the deck itself. So 2000 I find is about a reasonable value. You can kind of see it if I start and stop. If I go up higher, you see it have like a bit of a start and stop. If you watch this indicator here, this shows you how it's sort of coming to a stop. But if I have the numbers really low, say like below 1000, then it's a much more sort of a dead-on start-stop, which affects the sound, which of course you want to hear, which is, so with sort of turntable scratching, when they're using the fader, on modern faders, they will have the ability to control the cutoff curve. So old faders, you had no choice, so you'd have to have like a lot of hand control to be able to put the deck fully on or fully off. Whereas what they can do now is they can have a very short cutoff, so that you only have to push the fader across a little bit and it'll open up the other deck to maximum volume. Essentially, what I'm faking here is just by pressing any sort of MIDI note down, I open the fader. So on my push or on my keyboard or on any sort of input, if I press a note down, you can see down here on the MIDI section that just opens the fader essentially. So what you're waiting for is if I hit play on this deck and I just tap a button, tap a MIDI note, you can hear that I can open the fader. So the way this works is, if I sort of scrub back and forth, as well as tapping notes, I can make it go. But you can hear how with this low smoothing value, it's pretty choppy. If I put it up to my sort of default of 2000, it's much smoother. If I go further up still, it goes very smooth, but it starts to lag too much behind the playhead, and I can't get those sort of accurate scratches. So I'm finding at the moment about 2000 is a pretty good value. So let's get back to the point of this, and you can see that I am sort of Live itself, sorry, Max for Live is sending automation data to Ableton. So you can see this is showing me the playhead location. like that. Alright, so if I were to try to learn this bit, I would let it play. So that is too fast for me to do, so I can cheat. So what I can do is I can slow it right down to say maybe, I don't know, like 60 beats per minute, let that play. And I find with the backing track, I had the sort of time stretching stuff turned on with warping, but I found it's actually more useful to have it on the repitch mode, so it gets slowed right down. Because what that means is with the plugin, whoa, if I go back to my plugin and go over here, it means that in the bits where that DJ lets go of the turntable and just plays forward, if I can sort of control the speed here to be roughly the same, so that's obviously at full speed, but I can bring the speed down so that it kind of feels more like how it sounds in the track, which means that when I record it, I'll have the correct pitch for when I let go, and that diagonal automation line will be more or less correct when I pitch it back up again. Anyway, let's see if I can sort of play along with this, and then I'll try and record. Oh, but I want just that bar there. So start from here. Make sure that's looping. So you can hear my one is actually higher than that one, so I might bring this down even lower. So this one, having sort of played it in before, again I cheated and I looked up, index of scratch techniques, and I think what this is a Ford with a tear, which is you pull it back and pause and then pull back again. So it's forward, back, forward, back, forward, back, and then it's a couple of just back and forth chirps, I think. So it's forward, back, forward, back, forward, I think. Anyway, let's see how that goes. So if I try and record, so I'm going to give myself a bit of extra time at the end just to stop it, and we'll see how we do. Whoop, I get my count in. Go back to here. Make sure I'm recording. Oh, missed the end scribble bit, but anyway, let's say that's enough. So I've got that keyed in. I'm going to reset my bars. So you can see it's recorded the automation, but you can see that while I've got that there, Live and the plugin are ignoring it. So you can see it's still using this guy, this rising vertical line. Under the hood, I have this standard Ableton control exposed, but I've got to force the plugin to say ignore the internal max data and only use the automation. So that's a two-part thing. One is I've got to switch this over to automation, and then I've got to tell it to relink itself onto this clip by right-clicking on this line over here and go re-enable. So now you can see it goes red and this is now active. So let's see how that sounds. Whoop, go to there please. All right, so more little ticks and chips are found. You can see that it's recording like way too many sort of points here, more than would be useful to edit. So I found what you can do, little fruit fly, is I can highlight this whole region and right click and go simplify envelope, and does a really good, like remarkably clean tidy up of the data, better than any equivalent results I've seen in Maya or Houdini, which is quite strange. So now this is something that I can edit. So I'm going to start from there and just let it play back. So actually, it's not bad. That little spin back at the end is where it's trying to spin back from there, from this sort of high value, most of the way through the sample back to this first point here. So if I want to sort of I guess make that a bit cleaner, I can try and pull that down so that it doesn't get such a crazy spin back. Oh, but I've lost my playback, so I want to make sure I clip it at the end of this sample and let it go back. Okay. Also, if you get like little sort of double ups of time, that tends to confuse the interpolation algorithm, which is being driven by the smoothing sync. So I can see I've got more than one point down here. I'll just keep tapping until it goes away, and then undo one more step. There you go, it's better. And I'll just clean up a few more errant keys that don't need to be there. So that is that. Occasionally, the simplifying will put sort of ease in, ease out curves, which you can tweak by, if I get sort of near the curve so that it highlights the section and hold down Alt, I can sort of bend it one way or the other. I thought this would be really useful. In actual fact, it tends to get in the way. So wherever I get it, I either try and delete and rebuild the keys, or I use the Alt key and try to push it back to flat. So if that's kind of saying not too bad, I might try and go back to full speed now and just loop it back on the full bar. So it's 7, yep. So go back to 128, which is the BPM for this track. Not bad. So you can see that that if this is controlling the automation for the back and forth on the sample, the notes control the automation of the fader. So I can, so if these are sitting a little bit too far early behind, so this one's maybe a little bit too early, so I might pull that later, sorry. So now maybe turn off the reference and just turn on my track, my little loop. Where'd that go? Down here. And then the last thing is, I've found with these sort of fast scratches, I have to play with this smoothing thing, because it might sound okay when it's played at half speed, but then when I pitch it back up, it might be a little bit too laggy and it falls behind the beats, and it tends to go a little bit too low in pitch. So I'll just play with this until it sounds more like how I want. So that's at 2000. Let's go to 1000. So it should be faster, but it'll get a bit burbly. If you go too low with the smoothing, then it starts to sound very kind of crackly and grainy. Not bad. Just for argument's sake, let's go down to 500. And I'll just play that by itself. Turn off the metronome. That sounds pretty good. So the way that the scratcher in FL Studio would work is it would record separate envelopes for if you were touching the deck or not, and where the playhead was or not, which made it a little bit tricky to sync. You'd have to be juggling sort of multiple automation envelopes if you were pitching up and down. Whereas this one, because this is just always absolute time, it means that if I slow it down, it does also sync up, which is quite handy. So I can very accurately sort of control, if I think this one is too low in pitch, I can basically just pretend that I'm pushing the turntable faster by by making this curve more steep. So I can maybe push it up to there perhaps. It's a bit too hard. Get rid of that extra key. Actually, I like where it was. Maybe you've got to give that a little bit of something there. Maybe that one a bit faster. So you can see this is how I sort of tweak these things. So I went through bar by bar, listening to the track, emulating it at slow speed, then pitching it back up, and then adjusting the numbers and these keys until I got what I wanted. So that is how this works. If you're interested in getting this still after seeing how weird a manual it is, give me a shout.